So what do we do there? Hey, Zoom's messing with me, man. How are you? Good to see everybody. Oh, 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 oh. Uh, the EMF meter is going off. So anyway, hello everybody. It's Friday, and welcome. Thank you for being part of the journey. Speaking favor over all of us. Nothing missing, nothing broken in our lives. Hey, that covers the full gamut, whatever it might be: health, finances, relationships, nothing missing, nothing broken. Good way to go through life, isn't it? So, welcome everybody. Hello, Brian. How are you doing, my friend? And Miss Lois, good to see you. And Darth and Lexus and Chris and David Barry, hello. And Hillard and B3 and David Castle, how are you doing? Melissa, hello. Susie Q, good to see you. Um, Eye of the Maelstrom, welcome. John Price, Nina the Mystic, hello. Hiya, good to see you. And Matt, good to see you as well. GD, welcome. Um, yeah, Matt, go ahead and I think David emailed me. Says you would like to add something. I think what we were, hey T Cat, talking about yesterday, which is we haven't finished. I mean, ay ay ay. I mean, every day it's something else. But it just matters on what lens we're looking through. It seems to be that way. So cheers, everyone. Hello, Wendy. Good to see you. Belanca, hello. Cheryl. So good to see all of y'all. This is really becoming a tremendous community. I marvel at all the fine, wonderful souls here. Bree, good to see you. Marcia, hello. How are you? How are you doing, Marcia? We keeping you busy on there in the front lines? Um, Excellent. Lucky, good to see you. Lucky has a YouTube channel, folks. Go over there and check it out. Lucky Stone. Mojo, hello. I like that. That's cool. ah, Going crazy. It really is. So, been doing some experiments, and I thought that we would do one, over the weekend that's coming up, Saturday and Sunday, is to start putting this to a test. Those of you who are on Facebook, you'll probably have much quicker results, who knows. But in preparing for this presentation on synthetic telepathy that's being deployed now, I mean, start doing your own experiments. See how long it takes for you to think of something while you're in front of a computer monitor, running Facebook, even YouTube. I'm sure it's here. And see how quickly the representing ad or article comes up. Yeah, they're in our heads. They're in our heads. Bernard, good to see you. It's like, get out of my head, man. So, been an interesting week. Our reality has been altered. I don't know if we'll ever go back to the world that it was. Listen, I'm a product of the late 60s and early 70s. And, you know, the times back then were tough, man. I mean, you know, downtown New York City was nothing but hookers, adult video stores. I mean, you can get mugged right there, right there at Times Square. That was back in the day, yeah, it wasn't a really good time. I mean, turmoil. We had Nixon. I mean, how much more turmoil could you? I can't even imagine what would be the result today had Richard Nixon been in office. I mean, but yeah, but yet I look back on it, and I guess it was because we weren't entrapped by technology. And hey, I'm been a part of this, you know. Uh, and it's a trap. It's trapped. It's trapped. We didn't have the technology. We had music. I remember the coolest thing was getting quad. You had stereo, but you could get quad. And when I finally was able to sell enough drugs, and it's the truth, went out and bought myself one hell of a quadraphenic system. And later, it was just a buzz. I mean, it was surround sound is what it really became, but got the two albums, The Who, Quadrophenia, and then the Beach Boys, Made in Holland, because both those albums were recorded in quadraphonic sound. So how many of you remember that? Hey there, Brian, Milky Way Messengers. Ryan, I'll be getting to you. I think maybe tomorrow night will be pretty cool. And if everything works out and works out at him, I'll be over on his channel, and we're going to talk about some pretty big events. If you go back in my archives, it's been a couple of years. I announced to my audience, and then it was smaller then, that there's a big event coming up here in 2 years, 2.5 years. It's already impacting our solar system. And folks, this thing is huge. We're talking about a comet. And specifically, I know the comet's name. It is C2017K2, I believe, Pan-STAR. And it's a big sucker, big sucker. It's not going to get close to Earth, but we don't really know what the impact is. 5 times bigger than the planet of Jupiter. 5 times. Its corona will be absolutely amazing as it begins to light up. So, yeah. Yes. Have a sip of tea, everyone. Mm. Part of possessing these bodies is that I don't know in our spirit form if we can actually taste. I hope we do. Rennie, I hope they got chocolate over there. Um, because taste. Stop and think about the wonderful, but yet so grotesque looking, the tongue. Our tongues are an absolute marvel of engineering, of the intelligence that it took to design the tongue is off the scale, folks. But they did, it did. And the tongue, it can taste both sweet and sour and bitter all at the same time. Your tongue is the fasting, healing organ in your body. Your tongue is absolutely saturated with bacteria, but the type of bacteria that you need. The tongue has the ability in which how you speak a language, how you articulate words. And when you see what the power of the tongue can do, it's a marvel. And we don't give enough thought to the tongue. Imagine that. It's an absolute wonderment of creation, the human tongue. Anyway, so here is salute to the human tongue, to the tongues in all living things. Marvelous, marvelous. So good evening to everybody else. Brian, how are you feeling, by the way? I know you were really kind of kick all that lot of crap. Get that all away from you. Max, you're right. A wonderful creation from your lips to God's ears. Well, that's and why not? But I just thought I bring that out. Um, you know, it's these things that we have about ourselves that are just absolutely it's mind-blowing when you stop and really think about it. And again, the tongue, it's always looked over. I mean, talk about no ego, but yet one of the more powerful aspects, right? I mean, eating wouldn't be fun if you couldn't taste, right? Imagine that. It'd be like eating cellulose, you know, or oyster crackers. You ever done that? Particularly if you've been out like on the water all day and you come in, you don't eat oyster crackers the first thing. No, no. Have a cold beverage first, or, and then you eat the oyster crackers. Otherwise, it can become a real challenge about swallowing what is bulk cellulose, right? All right, let's get into it. It's Friday. It's a happy day. I was listening to Paul McCartney and Wings and the Ram album. Great. Yeah. Anyway, life is good. It is grand, and it's such a fine place. So let's talk about something that we all must have. We've got to have it. Otherwise, we ain't going to be around, folks. And that is clean water. Now, in industrialized countries, we take it for granted. Turn the tap on, the water is going to come out. We used to be taught to believe that it's all safe. You know, there are regulations, et cetera, in place. So without clean water, there is no life to speak of. These are placid scenes we all love. In fact, it looks like Colorado, to be honest with you. There are many places like this. And when we look at this, we think clean, fresh water. Well, hold on, not so fast. Yes, it's beautiful. And when we get thirsty, there's nothing more than an image like this. How many of you ever tasted water that almost tastes sweet? It's natural spring water. The kind that when you're up in the mountains, it's literally coming out of the mountain, you know? Hasn't been in a stream where you can get giardia and all the rest of that crap. But when you look at that, it makes you thirsty, doesn't it? Shows you the power of psychosomatic suggestions. Don't you want to drink right now? Aren't you thirsty? Come on. Oh, yeah. Nothing more than that satisfaction when you take that swallow. All of us have been at that point, particularly in the summer times, where you've either been working out in the yard or just doing strenuous work, exercise, and you are thirsty. Your body craves this moisture, this substance, this water. It's an element made up of chemicals, by the way. But that glass of water is actually dangerous. We today we really, you can't go anywhere to find fresh, clean water. Even the water that's in containers, plastic containers, are saturated with the byproducts of these chemicals, what we call plastic, saturates it. And, you could really look at this and say, drink more water, because the truth is, this is what it's doing to us. Fluoridation of water was one of the biggest attacks on a population that there ever could be. I have a whole video that we do on that. But today we're going to be talking about something that is so insidious that it can't be filtered out. It can't be. And there's not enough science or studies to see what happens when evaporation takes place, what type of chemical compounds are actually being released up into the atmosphere, which then is pulled up into the atmosphere and through the recycling engine of Earth comes back down as rain. The truth is, most drinking waters, municipal drinking waters, if you are living in a city and it has a municipal water system, you are literally drinking birth control pills, antipsychotic, antidepressant, estrogen. You're also drinking shampoos, exotic oils that are in the the products that you use on your body, because we can't get them out. And the fact of the matter is, virtually all the drugs, and I'm talking here in America, are disposed by Americans one or two ways, actually three ways, if we want to get real technical. Number one, down the sink, going right out into the sewer. Two, into the trash, which then goes into the landfills. Or three, the one that we do the most of, is when you have to go number one and when you have to go number two. When you have to make that poo is saturated along with your pee with this. If you're taking birth controls, you're basically, ladies, just pissing all that estrogen right into the water system. If you're taking, again, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, the list goes on. Get into blood pressure. I mean, all of this. If you're consuming it, you're expelling it. And that becomes the problem, because we're finding out now that the damage, this is not chemical that we used to have in the 70s and the 60s polluting all the waters. No, this is 2020. We have contaminated the fowl, the fish, the other animals. And I don't know if there's been any studies into the plants, but I'm sure it's impacting them. Fish are actually, in some cases, addicted to the drugs. Why wouldn't they be? And these points, as you can see here, the darker the color, the greater the concentration of pharmaceuticals in the water table. Now, those of you who have wells, you think you're exempt? No, you're not. Because if you're using septic tanks and other things, the leaching process that eventually goes back into the groundwater is not designed to filter out for the pharmaceutical compounds. I like this one. A glass of ice water, please. You need a prescription for that. It's because it is true, folks. And we drink it every day. You see, wastewater treatment plants don't remove the pharmaceuticals from water that they are treating and discharged into the waterways. We don't have the technology. Maybe graphene, if they can ever figure out how to make it in a cost-effective way, maybe. Right now, and folks, we're consuming this every day. In fact, the concentration of how it gets into the ecosystem, I don't know if it can be reversed. You see, we've been talking about this week, not only about artificial intelligence, but the terraforming of Earth itself. And we've done this. So it starts right there from the old toilet. You flush the toilet, it goes into the sewage treatment plants. The sewage treatment plants then discharge it into the streams, the riverways, which then becomes part of the ecosystem, in which then, falling from the smallest to begin the largest, you begin to see how it begins to get digested into the system. Birds carry the carrion. And regardless if it's whether it's the fertilizers, whether it is the raw treatments at the pharmaceutical industry plants that are doing the discharges, which they'll tell you they comply with EPA. But yeah, let's be honest, folks. But we never think about this. So this is a table that kind of shows the impact of it. So this is major water pollutants and their source, type and effects. Infectious agents. They're finding now that the coronavirus can actually live on water and into water. Isn't that amazing? Pathogens that cause diseases. Examples, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, parasites. Major source, human and animal waste. That's why you can't drink the water in the streams where I live up in the mountains. Between beaver, you've got moose, bear, and of course, it gets into the water. And like I said, Giardia is one of them. 2, oxygen demanding waste, depleted dissolved oxygen needed by aquatic species. This is the effect. So it biodegradable animal waste and plant debris. And this comes from sewage, animal feedlots, food processing facilities, pulp mills. Pulp mills in the Southeast, ask anyone who lives around a paper mill. They'll tell you what a wonderful odor that is. You go on plant, it affects the plant nutrients, causes excessive growth of algae and other species. This is the result of nitrates, NO3s, phosphates, PO43s. Again, organic chemicals that add toxins to the aquatic system, oil, gasoline, plastics, pesticides, cleaning solvents. Be amazed at how many people will put that crap in the trash for the trash to pick up, and then it goes into the landfills. There's other people who will literally who do their own oil changing because they just don't understand things. Literally will pour that right on the soil because they live in a rural area. And what that does, it leaches. And it goes all the way down to heavy metals, etc. Heat. You get along around nuclear power plants. They produce a lot of heat, the water. This all has an effect. In this chart, you can actually see the major culprits that we're all ingesting. You have diazoman, you have, and some of these, carbapazine, naroflextines. These are antidepressants byproducts. You have antihistamines. You have anti-seizure. All of this. So as the population, and that's why you see the drug commercials on television, it's all part of it. It's telling you a vision that you must be on a prescription of some kind. That's normalcy. And, excuse me, there are many cases where people are on 5 or more of these drugs. Yeah. What am I saying? We have psychotic fish. They're depressed. They apparently suffer seizures, and they need much more, hormones. Yeah, they need more estrogen. It's true. And this is really the fact. We're consuming it, we're drinking it, and we're all flushing it. Xanax, Lexapro, Ativan, Zoloft, Prozac, Drysril, what's that? Serquil, and Valium. I don't know if they still sell a lot of Valium, but look at them. I mean, they tell us that we need to take these things, right? But they don't tell us how we can filter it out of our bodies when we expunge them. And when I look at a picture like this, it's representative of what's the problem. We as a society and a culture are drug dependent. We are all addicts. Let's be honest. All of us are addicts. Now, people would argue that, but you're addicted to something. Coffee, tea, Zoloft. I mean, I can just go right on down. Maybe this is the problem when you think about the methamphetamine problem in America. They all have to take a piss. And guess what? And folks, the dilution factor isn't that great. Each year, it's estimated that in America, we're throwing away 450 tons of pharmaceuticals going into the sewer or into the trash, into the landfills. And all along the production line through distribution to disposal, there are byproducts being put into the environment. And so here we go. From the toilet, treatment plant to the streams. There's no escaping this, folks. It is everywhere. So as we look at this, seizure medications decreases reaction time in the nervous system, slows the neuron activity and response. Birth control pills are putting in hormones, estrogen replacements. Antidepressants such as Zoloft, Paxil, and Prozac. Chemotherapies that kill cells, antibiotics. The problem is that when you start putting this into the water system, painkillers, tranquilizers, anti-cholesterol drugs, anti-inflammatory, beta blockers, and calcium channel blockers, heart and blood pressure medication, steroids, stimulants, Valium. Yeah, not real fun, is it? And here's where I was talking about. You think about this: shampoos, the lotions, the caffeine, nicotine, fragrances, cosmetic sunscreens, and everything else they're doing in hospitals and x-rays, anything that takes water that has to be put into the sewer plants. And it doesn't go away. The problem is that when it gets in direct sunlight, there is additional reactions taking place. And when we see the plants, this is, I think, do your fact checking. It's all here. All of those eventually end up in the water system. And even through evaporation. Again, we're not sure, but we're seeing in the most pristine wilderness places evidence of estrogens, things that are in the water that shouldn't be there. And this is still a reality today. It's that bad. In other industrialized countries where the regulations are not so observed, this is what happens. I mean, why would humans do this? We don't know what's taking place in other countries, but again, these type of discharges produce death. And here is a map to show you. I'm getting an updated one on this because the testing is becoming better. So you can see the red tested positive for pharmaceuticals, green tested negative. And I'm sure that most of this was taken about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe. Um, but is a good representative of what you can see, how far this problem, Fargo, North Dakota. And you can begin to imagine the more denser the populations are, the greater the density of these pharmaceuticals into the local drinking water. And even if you have bottled water, if they're merely refiltering it, they can't filter out the pharmaceuticals. It's just that. No laws, no protection. And the damage is incalculable at this point. No one wants to address it. These are accumulated substances that go into our bodies that become a real problem. Give me 1 second here, folks. It's true. And, you know, I think about it every time I take a drink of water. We don't drink tap water here, although they say ours is supposedly of the, upper point. It's just that I know this. It's that, what is really the point of what am I drinking? I mean, I may have more prescriptions than anyone could ever even think about. And it gets even worse than that. So when you think about water, it will eventually become wars over water. We're selling, because of the Obama administration in the United States, huge volumes of the Great Lakes. Why is China importing the water of the fresh lakes? I'll tell you why. The Great Lakes have some of the most cleanest water that's out there. Yeah, it's still contaminated, but you can still get out there in the deeper parts. And it's all due to the overpopulation. And the more people you have, the more people got to have water. The surface water is becoming so polluted that I think that if they were ever to be honest, there would be extensive capital allocated to the infrastructure to clean this up. And the problem that's becoming is that in more and more cases, private corporations are saying that they own the water. Not sure how that can work. We have drought down in Chile. They're in a real Brazil, South America, Australia, United States. And when you look at how a country actually allocates its water, it's interesting. The vast majority of what we call potable water is for agriculture use to grow our food. Livestock takes the next biggest chunk. Manufacturing, but electricity. And because of technology, it takes more water to generate more electricity because technology, it only lives with electricity. Now, you're going to begin to see this more and more. Little did I know when I put this together years ago, how impacting this was really going to become. Water. If you don't have water, there will be wars. It's not oil, it's water. Because without it, you can't be a power. You can't be a superpower. Your status as a nation is greatly diminished. And you can see how it follows. Industrialized countries, exactly how much water they're pulling out of the ground. In the San Joaquin Valley in California, the valley has subsided well over, I think, 2 to 3 feet because they pulled so much water out of the aquifer. The same thing we have here in Colorado, and Nebraska, and Kansas. You got the North Platte aquifer that runs all the way down into Texas. Same thing here. And everything is connected. But if you have contaminated water, you're going to kill a lot of people. Some slowly, some more quicker. Countries like India, other countries, even times here in the United States where drought dries up the water and the water table no longer can support it. You find out what happens real quickly. And when you look at the distribution of global water, you see, it's not, we're so narrowed in our vision. I mean, this is part of national securities of countries. It's to make sure you have the raw available resources. Water is one of them. And the way they get you to do that is to now begin to get into the fact of saving food. You're going to hear much more about this in the coming months. There are going to be a national campaign, I know, here in the United States about you saving food. Don't eat so much. Furthermore, we're only going to allow you to go to the store based on the first letter of your last name in a certain day. This is where it's coming. But at the same time, we have in America, in which also this COVID-19 apparently attacks very quickly, is obese people. Because of the zero nutrition of highly processed foods, we're literally letting our society's citizens eat themselves to death. And as so many people know, it's a weight gain, weight loss ring around it. And hunger. It's going to get worse. And folks, this has happened in less than, look at it, less than 2 generations. It's going to happen. It's happening now. The changes that we see in adolescence, we're seeing females, young girls, some at the age of 7, 8, starting their menstrual cycles. We're seeing boys develop later and later in their adolescence. These are all the things that we're seeing. And you're going to start seeing this, a campaign. Why? The lines that are taking place in Texas, California, and I'm sure that's in other states that are just not reporting the news along with the riots. Do you know that there are riots taking place? Oh, yeah. People are being killed in Chicago, Detroit, other cities. When people cannot be fed, you are literally, in the United States, we are literally 3 days from anarchy. Food banks, food pantries are now getting funding from the United States to try to buy the food. And it becomes a compounding problem over and over again. Getting the picture? Hunger is a real deal. And the world is just getting bigger and bigger, more and more people. They estimate within the next 10 years, we're going to add another 500 million, maybe 1 billion. It seems like the numbers are always lower than what they actually are of people. More people, more food, more water. And I see this as a compounding problem. Where is everyone going to get the food? Well, this has been the solution thus far, and it's not turning out so well. All around. Why? Because you have armies. Guess what? Armies have to be what? Fed and watered, right? And we're seeing it, folks. It's coming. This is one I wanted to get to so that all of us remember. Remember Fukushima? Well, those of you living on the West Coast up into Alaska, you out in Hawaii, you're now, you know, the amount of cesium 137 is, well, starting to get serious. In the coastal sites of the United States, we're seeing increased levels of these radioactive compounds, elements. Here you can see up to 2017, Santa Lucia Obispo, Point Reyes, Bodega Bay. And this is what we have discovered. The contamination coming from Japan began to spread at a rate that now the virtual complete Pacific Ocean now has contamination. That gets evaporated by the sun, which gets carried up into the jet stream, which eventually dumps down as rain on us. So there's my good news for the day. And it's a problem we need to remind ourselves about it. I don't have the solutions. And I don't think they're listening. I don't think they really care what our solutions are or not. But, you know, Great Scott, it's interesting that you said that. Yes, because the Japanese government has done this without, they announced it back in, I think it was in January, that they were going to literally dump into the ocean millions of metric tons of radioactive water. They're still doing it. But nothing to see here. Move on along. You've got to worry about this virus now. Let's see. The fuel rods were long withdrawn. I don't know about that, Max. I don't know. A lot of different theories out there. And I think to each his own. That's the way I look at it. Because I don't know. Yeah, I didn't, like I said, we all have different things. I showed the creature that came out from the ocean during the tsunami. And it's amazing to me. I saw that, Spirit Girl. What does the earth has to say? I think the earth, I think that lady is pissed off, is what I think. I think she's getting tired of this abuse. And you know, we can't continue to have this continue to go on, is what I'm saying. We've got to change this. But they keep on adding, piling more onto the plate. It's nuts. You look at the compounding problem. When I saw the food lines that they showed, I think it was in Dallas, and don't quote me on this, but and been the one in San Diego, and now there are others showing up. A mile and a half long, people waiting to get food. I mean, when you shut down an economy and people don't have money coming in, things get desperate. The average person in America, regrettably, does not have more than 3 days of food in their house, if that. Many people who live in the cities, such as New York City, um, even in places like San Francisco, they don't keep a lot of food in their high-rise apartments, their homes. It's not designed for that. It's designed that you could literally go in, when I was traveling to New York City quite often, I'd stay at the International, and literally I could walk around the corner and to one of the stores there and get yourself whatever you want. Sell it by the pound. Cheaper than going to the restaurant, much cheaper than room service. But that's the point. It was readily available. Virtually in any corner you could find someplace to eat. Yeah, I don't know how that's working out. But any case, let's see. Gold Eyes God says, I eat small. That's good. I think that we all should probably eat less. We all should eat more healthier, but it's really a challenge. And when you have states prohibiting their citizens from buying garden supplies and seeds, what the hell is wrong with people? How are you going to feed these people? We did a show a couple of weeks ago on the victory gardens. This is the smartest thing you could do. Everyone can get a 5-gallon bucket. It's very easy to make sure you just drill your holes, get some rock down there porously, put your soil in, then put your plant in. You'll be growing things in the next 90 days. That's right, David. Every age has an ending and a beginning. I imagine I should have Lois on here, Cajun Queen Tarot again. I mean, Lois, are you seeing a lot of people in your food bank? And by the way, if you look at the homepage here on YouTube on mine, the only donation that I have up there is to Lois's food bank. So, I know it's getting tough and it's going to get more interesting, but think about it. I would think that, well, thank you, Regina. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Did you hear what they, Regina, that brings me up to memory. Have you heard about the 10,000 military force in Washington, D.C.? They were activated prior to this pandemic, and they are taking the steps to literally close DC. Whatever close means, I don't know what that means. Yeah, so Anyway, yeah, I know. I'm getting antsy. Great Scott. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It truly is. What's Max have to say? Uh, I'm raising ducks and geese and chickens, all kinds of fruiting tree. Excellent. Excellent. You know, here where we live, you can't buy chicks. They're all bought up. Lynn and I looked at each other and said, well, when did chicks become scarce? Well, that tells you what the collective consciousness is telling other people. They're saying, uh-oh, you know, our feeding trough, grocery stores, um, hmm, not as reliable as we want. Yeah. Let's see, Adobe Springs, Callis, the property 5300. I don't even know what that, I sat into the conversation too soon. But in any case, yeah. So, you know, these are things that I think I got, and I'll tell you, as a prepper, we started looking at this back in 2008, 2009. Um, the signs were everywhere. And sometimes it takes a little things to get rolling. And I tell everyone, you need to start thinking about a barter system. I think that the currency, they're going to collapse it. They have to. There's no way that I see the dollar surviving this. It's the amount of debt that we're incurring is going to drag on GDP for years to come, and I just don't see that happening. And think about bartering. You know, I thought it was really interesting. One of the stars that lives here, I think up in Boulder, they were wanting some romaine lettuce, and she apparently could make pumpkin bread. And so the story showed them keeping the social distance, but making exchange, you know, romaine lettuce for a loaf of banana bread. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know who got the best part of the deal on that one, you know, but you know, I think that for a lot of us, you know, there is this whole underground economy that's been here. There's a whole barter network. I'm sure they're loving me just bringing it out now, but there's a complete barter network out there. And you can really, in other countries, I'm sure your networks are there as well. It's amazing what you can get. If you can't find seeds, there's someone that has extra seeds that may need something that you have. You'd be surprised what things, toilet paper. Yeah, you know, I try to get a whole, you know, probably do a whole thing of toilet paper for, you know, seeds is a good deal for me. I think that, you know, everyone works out happy on that. Uh, so I don't think we're all doomed. No, I don't think so. Um, but anyway, think about it. You ought to look at that. Yeah. Brian says, I know dabbling and dealing would pay off eventually. Yeah, you know, it's true. It's absolutely. Let's see. Ginny says there is a water source in the website that tells you about the highest magnesium source in the USA, pH and clear, clean water. Well, it's not clear to, it's not close to me. But that's interesting, Janine. I'd be curious if they, Al, Big Al, how you doing? Drink responsibly. Only one glass. You're only allowed one glass. uh, let's see. No toilet paper seats available. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Yeah. You know, who'd have ever thought that 2020 will go down like I saw David Castle, right? The year of the great toilet paper shortage. Who'd have thought? A freaking pandemic comes in, and what do people do? We got to have the TP, man. I ain't going to be without the TP. And and it's true. And ladies, I get it. I get it. I don't know what women do without toilet paper. It's and for us guys, it's, you know, not that big of a deal. Um, Loretta, now, it's very interesting. That's how they used to do it back in the day. You'd go out into the outhouse and you'd have your rag. You know, yeah, I mean, that's how they did it. Uh, oh, see it this. I'm thinking things already in my head, and I'll just keep quiet on it. You're welcome, Truth in Me. Thank you. Paul Joe, yep, that's just a pile of crap, isn't it? I gotta tell you. Yeah, and who wrote that? David talked about the Romans used sponges. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't think about things like this, but everybody has to go to the John. It's been that way from day one when we got here. And it's interesting how each cultures have always done that. I wonder how these holy men did this. I bet you their shit stink too. Oh, Wayne, you go all the show without having to say that. Well, uh, it goes by that expression. We all know it, don't we? All right, folks, the 3 shale technique. He never did figure that out, or I think he did at the end. Didn't Stallone figure that out at the end? Yeah. That's a point, Spirit Girl. They say that, that's the time when most people are truly in a meditative state of contemplation, is when they're on the toilet. Books have been designed, People magazine was designed for that, because the average crap would allow you to read, probably half of the magazine or that section. That's how it was designed. Anyway, Brian, I'll be in touch with you later on, and um, I saw that, Gary. Yeah. Oh, mercy, 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 mercy. All right. Well, hey, raising the vibration. Yeah, I rose mine all right. That's just funny though when you start and think about it. It's a natural human function, but one we never really want to talk about. But yet, how profound, how many inventions and how many prayers have been, invented and created from that moment that we all must face at least once a day, right? Reader Digest and Bible page. Oh, no, that's funny. Well, it used to be, in fact, in the 30s, in the Depression, that the Sears catalog, that's what the Sears catalog was designed for. It was that they knew that people were taking it out into the John, the outhouse. But at the same time, you were reading the ads. I mean, think about it. It worked out well. The new feature. That's what I like. Let's see. Deb says, make sure compost is from critters and not, yeah, ain't that the truth? Got to really watch that. All right, folks, check out tomorrow night. I think I will be there, and we'll be talking about some of the spectacles coming over at Milky Way Messenger. So, all right, folks, peace to you. Thank you for a great week. Enjoy the company. See you tomorrow, and see you on Monday as well. All right, bye-bye. Peace out.